Happy Saturday. What is going on? Forgot to put my glasses back on. There we go. I can see you now. I can see all of you out there. How you doing? Hope we're doing okay. I'm just going to... Sorry, I just ran back up the stairs just in time to go live. There we go. And I'll turn myself off audio here. There we go. Now, first off, I want to make sure you can all hear me okay. I think if you're listening in stereo, my voice is still mostly on your left channel, which I asked the program not to do, and it continues to do it. Let me see if I go mono. Does that work? Yeah, that seems to have monoed it out. So if you're listening in stereo, I intentionally went mono, and I'm just quickly rechecking my audio here because I don't want to distort. Hopefully that works okay. Also, just let me know that it sounds all right on your end. Here in the studio, when I listen on headphones, I'm getting a little bit of a slapback, but I don't think you're getting that in internet land. Hi, Castine. Hi, Aaron. Now in mono. Hey, Don. Now in mono. I know. Full spectrum mono. Sometimes if I set up my stereo microphone, I like to go in stereo, but today I thought I'd go direct with my guitar, so I'd rather go with both signals up the middle. How's the audio? Other than being in mono, can you hear me okay? Can you hear the guitar okay? How's that sound to you in general? You're supposed to be asking me questions, but no, I've done all the asking of questions so far. Let me know. Let me know in a comment in the YouTube comments. Blah, 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 blah. Sounds fine. Okay, thanks, Castine. Hi, it's Stephen. I've got your thing going here. You see that? Woohoo! Got new battery in there. It's working. Okay, great. No slapback. Good. I'll take these off then. Great, because it's very distracting for me. Good. Hair is not too bad today. A little bit of airplane hair still. So yeah, I just got back from, this time it was, let's see now, today's November 1st. I think I left on October the 14th, I think it was. Yeah, that sounds right. So I was gone for 2.5 weeks to Europe, flew into Germany and did 2 private concerts with my buddy Julie Malia, and that was in Eastern Germany. And then we went from there to, my light is flickering, sorry. This may be a little haphazard because I haven't done a stream in a couple of weeks. There we go. It's not flickering now. Then ran to Linz, Austria, touring by train. I'd forgotten how little fun that is. How's practice going with them sewing needles? Sewing needles. I'm not sure if I get the reference, except I'm wearing my jeans that have a big rip in the leg, which is very fashionable these days. I'd like to be, doing what the cool kids are doing. Yeah, so then we went to Germany and then Austria, and then we flew to Florence, and we played in Florence last Saturday, so a week ago. And then we actually ran down to Rome, and we met Ralph Towner. So if you don't know who Ralph Towner is, shame on you. No, you should really know who Ralph Towner is. So it's Ralph, R-A-L-P-H. Last name is Towner, T-O-W-N-E-R. And Ralph is one of the great, hi Joel, Ralph is one of the great innovators in terms of composition and approach to the guitar. He has been a solo artist a lot of his career. He's also in a band called Oregon, like the state in the United States, O-R-E-G-O-N, with Paul McCandless and Turla Gertu, and I knew I was going to forget the name of the bass player. I feel badly. And their original percussionist was a guy named Colin Walcott, who unfortunately died in a traffic accident back in the late 80s, I believe. So, but the band has kept going with Turla Gertu playing percussion. And Ralph married an Italian woman 20 odd years ago, and they lived in Palermo in Sicily for a bunch of years, and now they're in Rome. and they actually live practically a stone's throw from Vatican City. But we didn't have time to do any sightseeing. We just sort of went and met. He invited us for lunch. He's a fan of Julie's because he found her a beautiful video of his piece called If. She did a beautiful arrangement of it and a fantastic live performance that she uploaded. And it got my attention, it got Ralph's attention. Even the keyboard player from Dream Theater, Jordan Rudess, he even asked for a guitar lesson. So that's pretty cool. My old buddy Rich Pell became a guitar student of Julie's after seeing that video. So it's yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so it's a reference to the boot camp. Sewing needles. I'm still not getting it. You're gonna have to remind me what the reference to the acoustic boot camp is that has to do with sewing needles. Sewing needles, sewing needles. So, oh, you lost me. Anyway, I guess that was question number 1 of today. So this is an Ask Me Anything session. So feel free to ask me whatever you feel like asking. Just to finish off the tour question, I just got back late last night. So yesterday was a crazy day. Literally, Julie and I left the last venue, which was in Fusignano, which is not far from Ravenna, sort of in the northeast of Italy. And so we drove away from the venue just after midnight, so officially yesterday. And then we had to pack. So we packed our bags. We slept for maybe 2 hours in the hotel in Bologna. We were staying in Bologna. And then then Julie was flying back to Germany from the Bologna airport. So I took her there very early in the morning. She had to be there at 5 in the morning. And then I drove the rental car back to Florence, where our Italian trip started. And that's where I was flying home from. So I flew from Florence to Frankfurt, and then Frankfurt to Toronto, and then Toronto to Halifax. So I got in the door here at, oh gosh, it must have been close to 11 last night, here time. So I'm 1 hour ahead of Eastern time. And got to watch the end of the ball game. And of course, the Jays unfortunately lost a very good game. So it's going to a game 7 tonight. So we baseball fans are going bananas here in Canada for a game 7 tonight. When I come to Connecticut again, yes, Joel, I did try to work out some Connecticut dates for this upcoming little trip that I'm doing to the States this week with Julie, but it just didn't work out. A lot of the venues I'm finding more and more. I don't know why this is, and I'm not trying to diss anybody too hard, but it's really hard to get presenters in the United States to answer a phone call, to answer an email. I guess they're busy. Somehow I can get through to people in Europe and Canada pretty easily. But in the States, I don't know, it's like people don't use their phones or computers anymore. I don't know what they're doing. So fortunately, Julie and I have signed on with a new booking agent who's going to take on the United States as well. So hopefully he'll have more luck than we have had in terms of just getting the attention. Or, a lot of promoters are getting back to me 6 months later. Seriously, like I got an email yesterday from somebody I contacted in April, I think, or March or April of this year, writing me back, hey, sorry for the delay in getting back to you. I'm like, yeah, that's a delay. And another one, a person who really wants to book us. Again, I wrote her 6, 7, 8 months ago. She finally got back to me a couple of days ago. So it looks like a lot of these things are going to happen in 26 and 27 at this point. So I have to make sure I stay alive that long. Anyway, so that's okay. So there's a question here from Quiz de name, and it says, "What's Berkeley Springs written about?" Okay, very simply, I think I didn't write the tune; I arranged the tune. So it was actually written by a really wonderful musician and guitar player named David Essig. And David is originally from the U.S. I believe he grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. That's what I remember him telling me, but I may be wrong. And but he has lived in Canada for most of his life. He moved to Canada, I believe, in his probably in his 20s. And he's now of a certain age. I guess he's probably close to 80 now. And he's living in the west coast of Canada. David has written some really great pieces for guitar, and that particular one, of course, is my favorite. So what happened was I bought an album of David's back in the late 80s. Very unusual record. It's called Morning Calm, and it alternates between tunes for solo guitar and tunes for kayakum. Kayakum is a Korean harp instrument. It's like the Korean version of a koto that you've seen in Japan, perhaps. You know, it's a harp like sort of zither kind of instrument, where you pluck the strings and you bend with the other finger and stuff like that on the other side of the bridge. And I think the Chinese version is called the cheng. So the kayakum is, David, I guess, spent some time studying it in Korea, and ended up writing a lot of music for kayakum. So it goes back and forth between solo guitar and solo kayakum. The first tune on the album is Berkeley Springs, and David tends to play in dadgad tuning most of the time. So the original version is kind of like... I've never played it in dadgad, so I don't know. It's much more of almost like a march, you know. It sounds like a folk tune, but it's the timing of it. Dum bum bum. It's very four to the floor kind of square timing. And I thought to myself, gee, it would be really nice to take the tune and sort of make it, I don't know, more legato and make it flow more. So I won't retune my guitar. I was using this tuning, an open F tuning, FAC FCF. Yeah, FAC FCF. Oh, what the hell? I'll get into it. So FAC FCF, it's open F tuning, because an F triad is FAC. And so the tuning FAC FCF, I've used it for a couple of pieces in the past. Most notably, a tune called Hoover the Musical Dog. And then there's another couple of pieces where I tune the bottom string down to a D, and you end up with a really nice D minor 7th chord. And I use that tuning for a piece called Way From Your Window, and I also use it for a piece called Three Hands. So there's a few different pieces in very similar tunings. And I thought, okay, I have this nice tuning. Instead of playing it in dadgad, let's see if it works in this tuning. Now, the reason why I thought it might work is because this tuning has a lot of 1-5-1 on the top. And dadgad sort of is analogous. You know, there's a fair bit of commonality between the two tunings, but the voicing is different enough. So I changed it to... Now, to answer your question, Berkeley Springs is a town in West Virginia, and I believe that's where David's mother is from. So it's basically a tune dedicated to his mother. And sure enough, back in 2019, I think it was, I was touring in that part of the United States with a wonderful musician from the U.S., and we ended up doing a gig where it was in Charleston, West Virginia. Or is that the name of the town? Is it named like Charleston, I think? And then we had to cut through the countryside, and sure enough, I saw a sign pointing to Berkeley Springs. We didn't have time to go there, but it was pretty awesome to see. So it was Ethan Case that I was touring with at that time. And if you haven't checked out his music, he's really interesting. He plays a double neck guitar, has a 6-string and a 12-string on it, and he uses a lot of electronics. And his wife is actually, they're basically a duet, but you just see Ian on stage, and his wife is doing incredible mixing. Like, she does all kinds of effects on his guitar and moves the signals around, and so they've crafted this incredible duet approach to solo guitar playing, which is really cool. Plus, they get to be together all the time, which is awesome. Okie dokie. I'm going to get more of your questions here on YouTube. So yeah, it's about a town in West Virginia. So, Steve, you say you hope your nerves can take it. And what you mean the nerves about your light? Stealth Parrot, who you may see his comments. Oh, here we go. You may see his comments in the comment section. His name is Steve or Stephen. He's from London, Ontario, and he a little while ago he gave me this beautiful thing. It's I'll show you. It is. You may in the comments have to explain what it is again. You've told me several times, and it just doesn't stick. This has something to do with capturing some kind of electrical impulse or something, but in this material, this kind of plastic material, and it ends up looking like a lot like a tree, but also looks like a like a thunder. I mean a lightning bolt. Oh, you see a lot of myself there. Can't quite get it in focus, but yeah, it looks like a lightning bolt, and it's actually captured in the material, and then it's attached to this light, and so I can turn it on and off. You see here, look at this. There it's off. There it's on. Really cool thing. I love having it here in the corner of my studio as a little inspiration of, zap to it, Don, get some stuff done. You said you learned aerial boundaries in a weekend. I challenged you to try to learn something else in a weekend. You did? Sure. I mean, the interesting thing about my life as a musician is that I've had many occasions where I've had to be very kind of on my feet, like think on my feet. I very often am in improvisational situations, where I have to come up with a cool sounding solo on the spur of the moment, and hope for the best and hope it sounds like composed music, even though I'm improvising. And then I'm also very often in the position where I have to learn things basically by ear off recordings. And like, for example, a few years ago, I graduated from this MA program where I did an orchestration degree. And one of the pieces, I had to write an arrangement for brass, a brass arrangement. So I put this brass ensemble together in samples, in my computer. And the tune that we had to, I guess we had a choice of a couple of tunes, but it asked the whole idea was that you were doing an arrangement. So I did an arrangement of Live and Let Die. That was one of the pieces that you could choose. So it's a Paul and Linda McCartney tune that was the theme for a James Bond movie back in the 70s. And it's actually a really cool piece of music. And the original was produced by George Martin, who also was the producer for the Beatles and America and a bunch of other big acts back then. Anyway, and I didn't have any music to work with, didn't have a chart. So I just figured it out on my guitar by ear, what the changes were. And the melodies I could figure out, and the harmonies, obviously I had the chords that I'd figured out on the guitar and on the keyboard. But it runs all over the place. And that was a weekend where I orchestrated a version of Live and Let Die, which is a crazy piece of music, for brass ensemble. So you as a musician, as a working musician, in that case I was a studying musician, but as a working musician, you're very often called on to do things that require a certain skill level and to do them quickly. So fortunately, I've developed my ears a lot, and my theoretical and harmonic knowledge is really strong, and I play a bunch of different instruments, so I can do this kind of thing. So maybe that's why it feels like learning something like aerial boundaries in a weekend seemed like a Herculean task. It was hard work, but I enjoyed it, So it's cool. Joel, it's a bummer. Yeah, it's too bad. They were talking about booking agents. Yeah. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Please come to India again. I talk about my trips to India all the time. Those I've gone twice, and each time it's kind of life changing. India always blows my mind because, as somebody who lives in a small town in Canada, it's like going to somewhere as exotic and crowded and crazy and wonderful as India is really incredible. But I've had some fantastic just life experiences in India and also performing experiences, mostly playing in Mumbai and Bangalore, but also getting to other places out in the countryside to see and meeting people from all over India, people who traveled all the way from Assam to see me in Bangalore. I mean, that's got to be a couple thousand kilometers. It just blows my mind how wonderful the reception was. So I would love to go back. Oh, hey, it's Gunta. How you doing? Speaking of new booking agent, you just got mentioned, not directly. Well, I didn't say your name, but there you can see in the comments a little hello from Gunter Lemoine. He's the new booking agent that Julie and I have taken on for all territories except Canada. Our Canadian booking agent is a wonderful guy named Bob Jensen, who is based in Montreal. So, hi, nice to see you there, Gunta. Yeah, I decided to go public with the stream this week. Aaron, okay, so you're saying you're hoping it's not too personal, but I wonder about finances as a solo touring musician. I've seen you in Montreal twice, and I know about how many people showed up and about how much I paid for tickets. After lodging and travel expenses, is there enough left to make it worthwhile? Well, I have had a huge range of experiences in Montreal, and as a touring musician. When Julie and I played there back in the spring, yeah, there was quite a small crowd that showed up. I was very disappointed. There were probably only 40 or 50 people in the room. And it was a bit of a surprise to me that it was that small a crowd. But that's probably for a multitude of factors, which I don't have to get into right now, just that nobody gets upset at me. But I played the year before there at the same venue with Kent Nishimura from Japan, and it was a fairly good crowd that time. But still, it's a small venue. It's a Casa del Popolo and on Saint Laurent Street. I mean, it's a cool place in that there's a lot of live music there going on all the time. But I got spoiled because for a lot of years I was mostly playing events to do with the jazz festival and the Salon de Guitare that was going on there as part of the jazz festival for a few years. So there were some pretty plum gigs at the jazz festival. So in the summer, I got spoiled by playing, for 5,000 people open air at the what's now called what's it called, Quartier des Spectacles, that area. The last time I lived in Montreal, I lived around the corner from there. But they hadn't developed the quartier yet. So what they would do during the jazz festival is they would close off some of the streets and they would have these open air concerts, and there was a guitar stage. So there was people like me and Tommy Emmanuel and all these different people doing live shows, and there'd be like 5,000 people there, and the pay was good, and I did. And then after that, they stopped doing the open air things and they started doing these shows in these tents, but still it's like, hundreds of people would be at the shows. So I got very spoiled by my Montreal experiences. So going back and playing clubs feels like a bit of a come down. I'm just hoping that perhaps those nice experiences, those nice opportunities can reemerge. Your question about whether or not it's financially worthwhile to tour, the answer is most of the time, yes. Sometimes no. It's just true. I've been touring now it's getting close to 40 years. When did I do my first tour? My first real tour was 1989. So, and I have to look at the clock, 2025. So it's, that's 36 years, okay, that I've been a touring musician, almost always full time, except for the COVID era. And most years, when I file my taxes, I've made a profit. And even though I started my touring career before Napster hit, Napster kind of changed everything. But I had about an 11-year career before Napster hit. So I was part of the record company business there for a little while. I had 3 different record deals in those 11 years and got internationally distributed. And so, I mean, I had something set up before kind of the bottom fell out of the recording market. So it used to be that making part of my living as a recording artist was much more amenable back then. Since Napster, it's been harder to make money on the recording side. So now we've had to concentrate on, if you're doing recording and composition and touring and all that kind of stuff, you're focusing more on the touring aspect in terms of making money than you are on the recording aspect. And these days, yeah, if you get on good playlists and all these kinds of things happen for you, your career can be okay as a recording artist, but still it's so much of a shake of the dice. So I find that what I do now, I've changed the way I do a lot of things. My old adage is always adapt or die, right? So musicians have had to do a whole lot of adaptation in the last couple of decades. So on the recording side, since I no longer rely on labels, I found that this formula that I have now, that I've really only started using for the last 2 records, is I do a Kickstarter campaign, and I can, because I have this lovely studio, I can make really good sounding recordings. My bedroom's literally across the hall here. So I can roll out of bed and work if I want to. I don't normally do that as my routine, but I can do that if I want. And so I can work at home in terms of making the records. They sound really good. I can mix them in stereo. I can mix them in Dolby Atmos. And then I can upload them directly onto the streams. I can get my own CDs and LPs made, and through doing it on Kickstarter, I have a budget. And then that budget helps pay for all the manufacturing mostly. Like the studio time, obviously, I don't have to pay for. But I still have some studio expenses every time I make a record. But a lot of the Kickstarter money goes to making CDs and making records. And then I can schlep those around on the road and sell them at shows. And yeah, in the end, it's not an easy way to get rich, but it's a really gratifying way to do exactly what you want to do. I get to play the kind of music I like to play. I get to record on my own terms. I don't have anybody looking over my shoulder saying, "Oh, note number 4, it could be a B flat instead of an A," or whatever. No, I'm like my own boss that way. It's great. So in terms of profitability, it's not hugely profitable, but I've always managed, back in the 90s, especially before Napster, I had 2 properties, I had 2 cars, and I was supporting a family of 5 on one musician's income. It's a pretty good time back then in terms of, the way the music business worked. Since then, it's been a lot more scrappy. You've had to do a lot of dodging around and making things work, but it's okay. Sorry, it's kind of a long answer to your question, but that's great. All right. Okay, great. You were wondering about that for 20 years. I'm glad you got your answer about Berkeley Springs. You were referencing Game 7. Okay, sorry, Stephen. Yes, I know. I watched the last couple of innings last night. And then bottom of the ninth, I got men in second and third, only 1 out. And then that weird double play. Oh, man, I was very sad. But, there's still hope for tonight. Even if they don't win, it doesn't matter. They were not supposed to get this far. So I think it's really exciting. I'm a huge baseball fan, too. So this is like, tonight I'll probably make popcorn. Anyway, what inspired the creation of the song "This Dragon Won't Sleep"? That's from Mirst. "This Dragon Won't Sleep" was written when my children were very young. So I raised 3 kids. Unfortunately, one has passed away, but my 2 girls, who were my biological 2 kids, they were, and they're still scrappy and at it. I'm even a grandpa. One of my kids has 3 kids herself. So they were only born 17 months apart. 17 months apart. So when you have kids that are born that close together, you tend not to get a lot of sleep for quite a while. And our youngest, my late wife Kelly and I, our youngest child Maya, was a colicky baby. She had an upset stomach and stuff like that a lot. So we had to do all kinds of special things for her to help her digestion. I used to have to carry her around in what's called a colic hold. I would just carry her around the house with her head here, sort of with her face facing down, facing towards the floor, and I'd have her belly in my hand like this, and I'd carry her around like that. So, and that feels good. That's called the colic hold, and that would keep her quiet, and she would be comfortable. But as a result, she cried a lot, and she didn't sleep well. So, and then my older daughter Tara was a pretty good sleeper, but she would get woken up by her younger sister rather, our younger daughter. So sure enough, there was one night when both Kelly and I were up again for the 17 millionth time. One night, tending to the kids, and Kelly just sort of sighs, and she goes, and she's talking about Maya, our youngest. She says, "Oh, this dragon won't sleep." And then she looked at me. She says, "Oh, that would be a good album title, wouldn't it?" So we decided the next album was going to be called "This Dragon Won't Sleep." We still didn't have all the tunes written. And then I wrote a tune, this very ominous tune. It's in a really crazy tuning, so I won't get into it, but you know how it goes. And it's got this really low beginning. And it's a really cool groove. Anyway, I thought, that's the tune, "This Dragon Won't Sleep." So it's about not getting any sleep when my kids were little. Literally, that's what it's about. Aramac Mac Pro 908s. One says, "Hello, Don. That's a very strange first name. Nice to meet you. Do you use baritone acoustic guitars?" Isn't that funny? I thought about setting my baritone up here in the corner, but it's downstairs right now in between tours, and like it's still in a case. So I didn't bring it up to the studio in time for the stream. But yes, I do. I have been playing the baritone. I kind of think I was one of the people doing it early. I think I was fascinated by the baritone guitar. I'd never heard an acoustic baritone really, except that I think every once in a while there were people doing things like on acoustic bass guitars, fingerstyle, sometimes 6-string basses, playing them fingerstyle. But then I started hearing about baritone guitars mostly on the electric side. And then sure enough, I was doing a session in Toronto one day, and there was this strange guitar in the corner that had 2 necks. It was a Danelectro electric guitar. And I noticed one of them was 6-string and kind of regular scale, and the other one is 6-string and longer scale. And I thought, is the second neck a 6-string bass? And then I looked carefully at the strings, and I could see that the top string was plain, and the other ones are really thick. I thought, that must be a baritone guitar. So I picked it up, and I asked the guy in the studio, "Do you mind if I play it?" And he said, "Go for it." And I started playing some tunes on the baritone neck, and I thought, oh, this is wonderful. So then Mark Beneteau, the B on my headstock there stands for Beneteau, Beneteau. He makes my guitars. Mark Beneteau and I were talking about working together on an instrument. And he said, "Well, what have you never had that you always wished you had?" And I said, "A baritone guitar." And he went, "Oh dear, I've never made one, but I'll look into the..." Anyway, it turned out it's not that radically different from making a regular guitar. You just have to brace it slightly differently, and the neck has to be longer, and it has to accommodate heavier strings, but you tune them lower so the pressure on the neck isn't that much different. So I got my first baritone in 1997, so almost 30 years ago now, and there's a lot of baritone on my Passion Session record. That's the first album that I recorded after I got the baritone. So tunes like Tight Trite Night, No Goodbyes. What else is on the baritone on that album? Annie and Martin, the version that's on the album. Those are all on the baritone guitar. So that's 1997. Pat Metheny came out with his One Quiet Night album, I think in 2001. That was also on the baritone guitar with Nashville stringing, so the middle 2 strings were up an octave. And he tunes his baritone down to A. I tend to tune mine to B. What I do have here next to me in the studio is a kind of baritone guitar. So here, I'll just exchange guitars here for a second. So this one that I've had on me here is a regular pitch guitar, but this one was made back in 1995. Again, I was sort of going through this extended guitar range fascination. So the builder of this guitar, Oscar Graf, passed away only just a few weeks ago, unfortunately. He fortunately just died in his sleep in his 80s, and he was seemed to be in very good health before then. But Oscar I got to know back in the 90s, and so this is a 7-string guitar. So if you count the machines there's 7 of them. So that I'm sure I'm horribly out of tune because I've been away, but that's this particular guitar tuning has an E on the top and a D. So what this is, it's a regular 6-string guitar, basically, the top 6 strings, and then there's an extra 7th string on the bottom. So that's unlike, say, what Lenny Breau did. Lenny Breau played the 7-string nylon string guitar, but he had a high A string on his, and he couldn't find strings that were made to take that pitch, so he actually used 25-pound fishing tackle as his high A string. So this is the opposite idea. This is more of the Brazilian idea where you have what's normally a low B. So if you tune to standard tuning, you'd have E, A, D, G, B, E on the top 6 strings, and you'd have a low B. Now, instead, I've done all kinds of weird things with tuning on this thing. a low A. So that's pretty low. Even on a baritone guitar, that would be quite low. So there's a piece called Meanwhile Road. Let's see if I can try. I haven't played it in a long time. Again, I'd have to practice it. I'd have to woodshed that one. But it's interesting that the bottom string's an A. So we have A, E, A, and then it's like the alphabet, B, C, D, E. Whereas there's a big gap between the C and the D, so that's a ninth. So normally I put a 20, no, I'd put what would be a D string, like a 35 gauge string there, but this is only a 26 right now. So it's flopping around a little bit because it's tuned all the way down to, what is that again? A C. So that's low. But that's basically a baritone guitar with a high E. So you can look at it either way. You can look at it as a baritone with an extra high string or a 6-string guitar with an extra low string. I tend to think of it as another instrument, a 7-stringed instrument that is guitar-like, but I don't try to play pieces that I would normally play on the 6-string on this. It just doesn't really work. This guitar has its own repertoire. So that's an Oscar Graf, Graf, 7-string guitar. That's what that is. It's lovely. It's a spruce top and koa back and sides, that one. This Mark Beneteau guitar, which was made in 2017, I believe, is spruce top and cocobolo back and sides. Very lovely instrument. Alrighty, let's get to some of your questions. So yes, I do use baritones, and have for quite a while. Senator Dish Towel says, do you have any tips to avoid wasted movement, especially in the right hand? It's amazing watching you play. It looks as though your fingers are barely moving. I have kind of an interesting, thank you for your question. I have kind of an interesting approach with the right hand. It's technically not really, correct. Classical players are usually taught to hold their hand out in front of the strings and, point the thumb back a little bit and to leave the top resonating completely. And those are all really good practices. A lot of fingerstyle players, I've seen people like Bruce Coburn and a lot of other people, they rest their pinky finger and then they sort of anchor their hand that way. I can't do that. It never worked for me. What I've always done, and it was just not anything that anybody showed me, it's just something I just started doing when I was a kid. When I started playing a lot of fingerstyle, I rested the ball of my hand essentially on this little part of the bridge. And then that means that my forearm is actually lying on the top right here. So theoretically, well, it's not even theoretically, practically, that part of the top isn't really vibrating, not optimally anyway. Like there's a difference between this sound and this sound. That's the second one was more open. That's simply because there's more of the top resonating. So that's why it's kind of cool. The way I do play, I can get these interesting effects like... It's like an acoustic chorus pedal effect, But all you're really doing is allowing more and less of the top to resonate, and then you're affecting which harmonics you're hearing, so that changes the timbre of the sound. It's really cool. So when I do play, it's like there's a lot of anchoring going on with my arm. So I actually had an orthopedic surgeon explain to me one time how I'm transferring force from my forearm into my fingers to play, and to play so aggressively. But the other thing too about not doing things like this, anchoring a pinky, is that I have a lot of freedom of movement. So when I want to do things like this, I can. When I want to reach over and start playing, doubling up on my bass line like I often do with my thumb and my index finger, I can do that really easily. I can reach over and play brush harmonics, or I can play slap harmonics. I can do all the silly things you need to do to get special effects up the neck without being anchored. So that's probably the wasted movement question that you have is simply because I kind of anchor my hand. And it makes it so that it's very predictable, exactly where your thumb is and your fingers are all the time, and they're kind of assigned to various strings. There's a bit of leeway that way. I let my index finger play bass notes. I let my thumb play melody. Sometimes it does if I'm improvising. Okay, it's funny improvising in a different tuning than what I was expecting. All right, so I hope that answers that question. Let's see now. Golden Hands Magic. Okay, I'll quit being cryptic and just explain the reference. When you casually mentioned learning aerial boundaries a weekend, you got quite the reaction from the boot camp crowd. Okay. Later that night, when needles were involved, I turned to you, needles. I turned to you and said, "I'd like to see you learn this in a weekend." Huh, Don? Does that jog your memory? Needles. So you were embroidering something? I don't know why I can't figure out what the needles is about. So anyway, you may have to just talk to me like I'm two. I don't know. I don't remember what the needles was. It sounds naughty. It wasn't that kind of needles. I'm sure it was needles that had to do with putting clothing together. But anyway, you have to let me know. All right. This was probably asked. Brands, types, gauges of strings in your various guitars. The guitars I play, for the most part, are these Mark Beneteau guitars. So he made this guitar, which is a spruce top regular pitch guitar. I have a guitar which lives in Germany most of the time, since I do about half my touring in Europe. It's at Julie's place in Dresden, and it's the same model, but with cedar on the top and mahogany on the back and sides. So a lot like my old Loudon guitars that I used to play. And then I have the Oscar Graf 7-string. For acoustics, there's my baritone as well, which is also made by Mark Beneteau. And I also have a harp guitar made by him, which is not in the studio right now. It's downstairs, and it's very difficult to maneuver around the house, so I'm not going to bring it up. But it looks a lot like this guitar, except with the extra resonator on it, and it's a magnificent sounding harp guitar. So those are the acoustics that I have. I have a bunch of. I did. If you scroll through my history on YouTube, I did another public stream. I don't know, 6 months ago, I'm guessing, called Meet My Guitars. And I show you all the guitars in my studio. But I have other instruments, like I have lap steel guitars, 2 of them. I have a dobro guitar, which I play slide on my lap. I have an acoustic bass guitar, which my friend Julie gave me. It's a lovely instrument. I started using it on my last vocal album. I have a fretless electric bass, so it's a Fender jazz bass, fretless. I have a fretless electric guitar. It's somebody handmade a Strat copy in their shop glass, and I changed it into a fretless for scoring because I like the weird sound it makes. I have a Frameworks guitar, which is a guitar made in Germany by my friend Frank Crocker, and it's basically it was conceived of as a travel guitar where you could take the sides off and just put it in the overhead of an airplane. But I use it as a MIDI guitar. It's got a really nice MIDI pickup in it, and I have a MIDI output thing, and I can use it to trigger other sounds and other guitar samples. Looking over in the corner to see what else I have. What else have I missed? I even have a Mexican guitarron, the mariachi bass, And when you mic those up just right, they sound exactly like an upright bass. It's crazy. So if I need an upright bass sound, that's what I use. It's cool. Strings. These are Ernie Ball. I'll show you the package. Ernie Ball aluminum bronze. This one's already open, obviously, so it's got the little part missing from the thing. But yeah, they're aluminum bronze. That's what the package looks like. These are medium gauge strings. I tend to use 56 to 13 as my preferred string gauge. So that's what they are. They look a little different. Like phosphor bronze strings look very golden when they have a lot of gold color to them. These are more dull looking, and these have they don't have as much of the kind of chimey overtones that a lot of strings have, which is actually, in my case, I think preferable, because I'm playing very multi-voice tunes a lot most of the time, playing most of the strings at once as often as I can. So I tend to get a lot of harmonic content. So if you can get it so that the fundamentals are a bit stronger, then that tends to be a good thing for me anyway. All right. I think that answers your question pretty thoroughly. Hi, Tom. What do you think is better, a soup out of a can or out of someone's cupped hands? That's an ongoing controversy, Tom, that you and I have been speaking about for years now. I would have to say straight out of the can is a little more bachelor style, and out of somebody else's cupped hands, Hopefully, it's because they are subservient to you and they will do that and other things that you need done in your life on a regular basis. Basically, a personal assistant that also is a good bowl for soup. What more can you ask for? Thanks for the question. Now, Lucas. Hello, Don and chat. You're by far my favorite acoustic guitar player. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Can you tell me a little about your creative process, please? I'm married because of one of your songs. Oh my gosh. That's lovely. Well, that's wonderful to hear. I hope that your spouse appreciates that very much. I certainly do. That's wonderful. Okay, a little about my creative process. Well, I most of the time I tend to think of myself as basically a songwriter who plays mostly instrumental music. I, of course, do sing as well. But I like using song form as a way of kind of having a discipline around composition. Because you can write pieces that just meander all over the place and don't really have a hook or whatever. But songwriters are used to saying to themselves, well, I need to tell a story in my song and I need to have structure so that the story can be told in a way that's cohesive. And so the story tends to get split up into verses. And then you have this chorus that kind of says, basically, this is what the song is about. This is what we're singing about. Anyway, that kind of thing. You have to think that way, I think, also if you're writing instrumental music. I think that way very often if I'm writing on the guitar, or you can't quite see it. Just out of the picture is my piano keyboard. I play a lot of piano, and very often I sketch things out using a keyboard. Even if it's going to end up being a guitar piece, sometimes I work out ideas on the keyboard because I play the keyboard in a different way than I play the guitar, and different ideas come to me. So that's all part of my creative process. If I'm working in situations like I've had to in the last few years where I'm working, say, to a picture or adding music to a film or television series or to a video game, and basically the video game thing mostly I've been told, okay, well, we need this kind of sound for this kind of thing that's going to happen in the game. So we're thinking like a James Brown funk kind of thing. Great, I love that stuff. So I come up with a James Brown funk thing. I have records that you can listen to streaming. Music for Games Volume 1, Music for Games Volume 2. This is all video game music that I've written over the last few years. And you can hear it's soup to nuts, all kinds of different styles. Not very much solo fingerstyle guitar. But again, I think in terms of even that as a kind of songwriting. And I try to work with themes, like saying to myself, okay, I have this musical theme. How can I develop it? How can I come back to it? How can I refer to it again later in a different way, make it more interesting? So they're very kind of classic compositional and songwriting approaches that I continue to use in 2025 because they are very tried and true. At the same time, I think my music doesn't sound exactly like anyone else's, which is also a good thing. I think that when you're a composer, you're trying to have your own voice. And I also find as a player, I try to have my own voice. That's why I encourage people to not just play covers all the time, Try to write your own tunes. Even though it's harder to get attention, even though it's harder to get people to hire you, it doesn't matter. You get to have an identity as a musician, and that's important. It's not just about making as much money as you can, but everybody needs money. I get it. All right. Let's see. Needles and threads. Oh, a bit of magic. Oh, now I know who it is. Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. I remember your magic tricks were incredible. Now it's all coming back to me. Sorry about that. Took me a little while. All right. It's a wonderful sound baritone. You're welcome. Yes. Okay. Alex says, hi, Don. Question from small town in Eastern Ontario. How do you select and I'm in a small town in central Nova Scotia. Hello. How do you select your tour locations, and do you still enjoy touring, or have you ever enjoyed it? Thanks for sharing your amazing talent. You know what? I've always loved touring. I know that for some people, touring is a necessary evil, and I can understand why. It's hard work. It's very, very challenging. Both, mostly physically. It's just physically very demanding. Even though I'm not like a GQ model in terms of being, 100% perfect shape. I'm very strong, and I can lift a lot of gear, and I can drive a long way, and I can put up with not getting enough sleep and all kinds of stuff. Like the last few days were really, really, really hard. A lot of schlepping of gear, a lot of going up and down lots of sets of stairs with lots of heavy stuff, with some help, of course. But every year it gets a little harder to do, and I'm turning 65 in a few days, and it's the age a lot of people consider retiring, but I have no interest. I like what I do so much. I mean, I can't imagine not doing this. So I'm happy to tour until basically it's time to leave the planet. So I do enjoy it. I love playing live. There's just nothing quite like putting music out from your instrument directly into people's ears who are right there in front of you. That to me is an amazing act of community, and I love being able to elicit kind of strong reactions from people in the moment. So that's why there's a part of me that says, "Oh, I wish I could just be in my studio every day, all day," because it's very womb-like. It's very cozy. I get to make these wonderful sounds. It's really interesting work. But after a while, I still can't help it. I think to myself, "No, I got to get out there and play live." Plus, when I was a kid, there were two things I really wanted to do from a very young age. I wanted to play music, and I wanted to see the world. And I'm getting to do both. So the fact that I was just a few days ago walking around in Florence, looking at the Renaissance buildings, and I was within spitting distance of the Vatican, and I was where else was I? All over the place, just crazy places. I was in Vienna, and I mean, all these things, all these places that most of us really want to visit. I get to be there on a regular basis, and I get to feel at home, learn other languages. I love it. So yes, that's the long answer. Is I love it. So hey, let's see now. I'm missing some of your things here. Do I still enjoy? Have you ever? Okay, thank you. Glad you think I'm talented. That's very nice. Tom, you're welcome that I cleared that up. Yeah, it's a very important point. Stealth Parrot, would you please play us a little something before you go? Absolutely, yes, I'll play you something for sure. There's Julie. Hi, everyone. Impressed to see Don here after his hard travel day yesterday. Yeah, I was awake for 90 minutes, I think, before I did my stream today. Managed to wash up a little bit so that you guys wouldn't see what I really looked like when I woke up this morning. Macro from 9081. I have a ganglion cyst on my wrist. Have you ever had any hand injuries or strains related to playing or that interfere with playing? Afraid of surgery because I'm afraid of losing my guitar skills. I understand all that. I have had on and off problems, fortunately, knock on wood, off mostly, with tendonitis. I started getting tendonitis in my forearms when I was in my 40s. I was just playing too many shows, and so the only thing that cures it is not playing for a couple of weeks. I do have a ganglion which has never gone away. It's a small one right here on my arm. That's from the tendonitis days. I've never had it operated on. It's never bothered me. I've had it for 25 years. People say, "Oh, just hit it hard with a book." I've tried that a few times. Nothing much happened. But anyway, doesn't seem to be bothering me or interfering at all. Depending where your ganglion is, I know that a lot of people get them here from playing too much, or maybe on your picking hand. Tuck Andrus, really great fingerstyle jazz guitar player, had a big ganglion on his hand 20 years ago or something. He had it removed, and he's fine. So I think ganglions, for the most part, are relatively benign surgery. I don't think you have to worry too much about them. So, but I'm sorry that you have that. But yeah, repetitive motion is hard on your body, and no matter which part of your body you're using. So the thing I tell people is, like, yeah, play enough to keep your skills up, but don't practice 18 hours a day or anything crazy like that. That's not normal. It's not healthy, So, because most people who develop, people who get things like focal dystonia or tendonitis or ganglions and stuff, these are just from playing too much, playing more than it's really humanly possible to play. I mean, you should probably take it easier. So play enough to keep your skill level up, or to slowly better your skill level, but don't overdo it. That's the big trick. I know it's hard to know when you're overdoing it. Great to hear. Oh, it's Tony Butler. Is it the same Tony Butler from back in the Staten Island days? Great to hear of your creative process. Greetings from Portugal. Wow, we've come a long way from that old mill town in Massachusetts. It is the same Tony Butler. You're in Portugal. That's so cool. Are you living there? I think the last time I saw you was in Manhattan. But it's nice that you drop in every once in a while. I've seen, and I've seen you comment and I've seen you say hello. So nice to hear from you again, Tony. It's been a long time. Steve, I love listening to recorded music, but there's nothing like live performances. I agree with you. A really good live performance is soul stirring. Louis KN090D says, greetings again. It's Daniel. It was such a pleasure meeting you in Fusignano. Daniele. Is it Daniele, who helped us with the show? If it is, thank you very much. You were amazing. Pleasure meeting you in Fusignano this last Thursday. I love your playing. Thank you very much. Oh, it was very nice. We had a lovely time. Fusignano is this smaller city. It's very close to Ravenna, which is sort of on the east coast of Italy, and about an hour from Bologna. So that was where Julie and I played our last show on this trip. That was just 2 nights ago. Yeah, so it was great. It was a nice crowd and beautiful venue. Oh, I love that place. And Castine saying hi to Julie, and then Golden Hands says, phew, glad the synapse is finally connected. Truly great to spend some time with you on the mountain. Okay, yeah, yeah, that's right. Finally figured it out. Okay, well, I'll play you a tune before we close up. Since I'm in the tuning for Berkeley Springs, I may as well get a copyright strike from YouTube and play this tune. What the hell? I don't mind sharing money with David. So once again, the tuning is FAC-FCF, and I'm just going to put a little something up here. Where is it now? It's called New Text Overlay. There it is. And just a reminder that you can learn a little bit more about guitar playing at my little Guitar Academy website, which is this one, DonRossGuitarAcademy.com. And that is the context where I normally stream every week. Well, it's like I've admitted before, it's not every single week, but it's probably like 45 times a year. We get together, a small group of us who are regular watchers every weekend on the stream. And I tour. When I'm not touring, I usually do a stream on Saturdays every week, similar to this, but we might talk about one specific thing. We might talk about minor modes, or we might talk about certain kinds of tunings, or we might talk about gear or whatever. So it's a fun time. It's very interactive, like today. Oh, Louis, you're the Mexican guy. Okay, that's it. Okay, all right. Yes. Okay. Now, you're the Mexican guy. So I thought your name was Dario. Am I getting it wrong? Sorry, I probably got your name wrong. Anyway, let's try this. Oh, it's Danielle. I can't remember. I'm really sorry. Anyway, it was great chatting with you and talking about places in Mexico that I like to go to. All right. So, Don Ross Guitar Academy, check it out. Once again, the tuning for this, if you want to try, F, A, C, F, C, F. All right. This is Berkeley Springs by David Essig, my arrangement. Okay, here we go. Yeah, down the octave, Don. I'm still asleep. Reading your comments at the same time. There's the half asleep version of Berkeley Springs. Before I forget, I should let you know that I'm doing a bunch more shows before the end of the year. The best thing to do is to check my website, which is donrossonline.com, and the whole tour is there. But if you're in the U.S. This week, Julie and I are playing in Thursday at the Jam and Java in Vienna, Virginia, which is Washington, D.C., basically. Get to see the destruction of the White House up close. So that's on Thursday at Jam and Java. On Saturday, we'll be not far from Boston in a place called Byfield, Massachusetts, at the Byfield Community Arts Center. So that's me and Julie Malia. That's Saturday. That's the 8th, I believe, this week. And then on the 9th, the next night, we're in Bath, Maine, at the Winter Street Center. So that's 3 little shows we got coming up this week in the U.S., so please come to those. Then I got a few days off, and then we're going to Ontario, and we are playing all over the place. So we start in Port Perry, we're going to Toronto, we're going to Brighton, we're going to Hamilton, where else? We're going to Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Ottawa, London, Virginia, which is a little town sort of Georgian Bay area. And in there, we're also going to Detroit on the 4th of December. So there's a bunch of stuff coming up. So it's donrossonline.com or donrossandjuliemalia.com or juliemalia.com. Check any of those and you'll see all the tour dates. Tell your friends to come on out. Let's just see from your questions here. You are welcome. Thanks for your, there was a lot of questions, a lot of comments here. That's great. Hello, back to Norway. Very nice. And yes, it was Dariel. Okay, so I was almost remembered your name properly. I thought it was Dario because that's very Italian. But Dariel would be much more Spanish, wouldn't it? Mexican style. It's very nice. 13 years ago, you inspired me to play guitar. Now you're a professional musician. Very nice. Or as Bruce Coburn would say, don't blame me. I've played your music the day before the day starts in Toronto. First ride, you really like that. Nice, thank you. Very inspiring, fantastic. Thank you. You're welcome. Super note, merci. Let's see now. Oh, it's Marie's in France. Hey, salut. Okay, let's see now. Bravo, lots of niceness. Is it too late to ask for Clem Vim? Oh my gosh, it's in such a difficult tuning. Although it's not that bad, I guess. Let me just think about that. Wanted to ask so bad at your live performance. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Van Cleek Hill, welcome. Oh, Van Cleek Hill, that's a lovely place. I like it there, in Eastern Ontario. You are so welcome. Thank you. Great. Glad you're coming. Oh, Earl, yes. You helped me schlep last time in Hamilton. It'd be good to see you there. You're welcome. You're welcome, Julie. I'll try to get into Klimbim tuning. I don't guarantee I can very easily. Let's just see if these strings will, just before we go. Then I gotta go buy some groceries. Got nothing to eat in the house. Yeah, it's not too bad. Surprisingly close to tuning, the tuning for Klimbim, actually. Except for that note. And this one. Alright, so the tuning for this one, if you care, the bottom string is a B, very low. It's kind of like baritone guitar, Ville there. And then an F sharp on the 5th string, C sharp, and then an F sharp, and then a B, and another F sharp. So there's 3 F sharps, 2 Bs, and 1 C sharp, which is the 9th of the key of B. You'll see how this goes. Whoa, wake up. new ending. such a such a nice bunch of comments and hearts and yeses and stuff. Thank you so much. It's very nice to see. Anyway, I basically kind of just rolled out of bed and did this stream today. So thanks for making my what felt like morning, but it's actually here in Nova Scotia 3 in the afternoon. So, oh, if you're in North America, don't forget to put your clocks back tonight. We do that this week in North America. I experienced it in Europe on the 26th of October. It was life-changing, getting that extra hour of sleep. All right. Thanks, you guys. Muchas gracias. De nada. De nada, Dariel. Thanks very much. Julie says, I'm a hero. I could not play one note after I could barely, Berkeley Springs there, I had a complete computer meltdown in there. I started going back to the original key and played up here. What was it? Yeah. Yeah. Feeling it, man. All right. Love you guys. Talk soon, okay? All right. Be well.